Let's go ahead and call the Senate to order. Sergeant Arms will please secure the chamber. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, Senators, we are very, very pleased this morning to have Pastor Lynn Treadway of Life Point Church in Waldorf, Maryland, guest of the distinguished senator from the 28th Legislative District. Members, please rise for the invocation.
Would you pray with me, please? Almighty God, thank you for this day and for gathering us all together safely this morning. The lawmakers of Maryland are gathered here as one body to discuss and decide on matters related to our great state of Maryland. Creator God, you have placed us all in this beautiful corner of the world for a purpose and have given us all responsibility to care for each other and our land. Thank you. God, guide the hearts and minds of all these leaders, and may they remain focused on the issues at hand. God, we pray for peace to reign over all the earth, from the tiniest village to the largest city and everywhere in between. Heal our nation, heal our world, heal us, Lord. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. I'd like to thank and introduce the members to Pastor Lynn Treadway. Lynn was born and raised in Michigan. However, has lived in Maryland for almost 30 years. She raised her family here. She's very active at the church. She is one of the pastors of Life Point Church in Waldorf, Maryland. And I just want to fast forward in respect of time to say that she's the type of spiritual community leader that we all dream to have in our communities. In her church, it's not just the spiritual, she focused on the holistic. So there's a organization sponsored by Life Point Church called Poema Movement. I hope I said that right. She said yes. And
Senator, just one moment. It's a little loud in here. If we could please focus our attention on the senator.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So the Poema Movement provide services to women, strictly women, who are having difficulties in life, whether through incarceration or drug addiction. And in addition to services, provide housing for them. I know that there's one home that's currently being operated, and they're working on a second home. They have a really tremendous waiting list. I just want to thank this body, because this year, this body provided funding through the bond initiatives to help that second home to be constructed. So thank you, members. And Mr. President, I ask that her prayers be journalized.
Without objection, we will certainly journalize the pastor's remarks and thank her for her work in the community and the whole congregation's work to make us a better place. Has everyone recorded their presence? It appears so. The clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. Are we ready with the teams? All right, let's go ahead and start. Senator from the 11th District. I believe we have a celebratory team here. The young women from Pikesville. Chair recognizes the senator from Pikesville.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am very, very pleased today to welcome the Pikesville High School Women's Class 1A champions of 2022. And this is actually especially nice for me because I am a 1982 graduate of Pikesville High School. So I am very pleased to welcome them here today. The Pikesville, the 2022 Girls Class 1A Championship, the Panthers defeated the Catoctin Cougars 51-42 to win the second straight state championship with a 2-year break in the middle due to COVID. During the last 4-year span, this amazing women's basketball team has won 2 state championships, 4 regional championships, and 2 county championships. And in 2017, they were the Title IX national champions, Donis Thompson bracket. I would like to welcome the wonderful coaches of the team, Michael Dukes, Kevin Speaks, Kevia Elliott, Gordon Outlaw, Assistant Principal Sam Buckley, and the wonderful women players, Amori Jarrett, Anaya Frazier, Amia Moore, Danielle Weems, Aaliyah Taylor, Kelsey Parker, Bree Taylor, Emma Rasulov, Jada Males, Corey Brown, Autumn Edison, and Taikisha Hill. Please join me in congratulating this wonderful, wonderful team.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Pikesville High School women's varsity basketball team in recognition of defeating Catoctin High School on March 10th, 2022 to become the 1A State of Maryland women's basketball champions. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 31st day of March, 2022.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. The young women of Pikesville High, the entire Senate of Maryland unanimously celebrates your victory and wishes you the best of luck both on the court moving forward, but also in the classroom. Congratulations. And as you all exit, our illustrious Chief of Staff, Sally Robb, is also a Pikesville High School graduate alum as well, so, you know. Something good in the water at Pikesville High School, you know. All right, I think we have another one of our last teams of the year, I think. All right, we have the young men from Westlake. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District.
Yeah, okay.
Senator may proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming the Westlake High School boys basketball team and congratulating them on winning the state 2A basketball championships. Let me tell you a little bit about those members present today, being led by Vice Principal Peck. Thank you for being here, sir. And Head Coach Ed Mouton. Assistant coaches Darnell Kemper, Randy Sullivan, and Eric Thomas. I just want to read a quick excerpt from the Washington Post. It said about the winning game. It says, after diving on a loose ball under the basket and calling a timeout with just over a second remaining, senior Aaron Heron, Aaron, are you here? Could you raise your hand? There it is. Thank you. Senior Aaron Heron was showered with pats on the head as he and his Westlake teammates gathered at the bench. In many situations, that would be an irrelevant amount of time, but with the score tied and the Maryland 2A boys basketball state championships in the balance, it was all Westlake needed. They went on to defeat Douglas High School, and Senator from District 23. Well, you had a victory in football here, so we balanced it out. so thank you, Senator, for your understanding. I just want to introduce the students. Raise your hand when I call your name, if you could. Devon Barker. Brandon Brimage. Jameer Gillard. Aaron Heron. Miles Jackson. Tamari Mims. Caleb Ogburn. Robert Pearson. Okay. Jackson Prince. Let's see. DeAndre Rogers. Jordan Russell. Javon Simmons. Maurice Smalls. Michael Washington Jr. Jaden Wheeler. Miles Cahoon. I hope I say your name correctly. If not, let me know later. And team member Anna Marie D'Souza. Okay. So colleagues, please join me in congratulating the state championship 2A team.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Westlake High School boys basketball team in recognition of your winning the Maryland 2A basketball championship. Your commitment to athletic achievement is exemplary. Congratulations on this outstanding accomplishment. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 31st day of March 2022.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. Gentlemen of Westlake, the entire Senate unanimously celebrates your 2A basketball championship, wishes you the best of luck in your athletic endeavors and also those academic prospects moving forward. So congratulations. All right, we got a busy day today. Lots of work. I can't even see the dais today. Just gonna plug on through. Let's see. Do we have any introductions? Chair recognizes the co-chair of the Protocol Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are delighted and honored to have Pages with us in person. So if the following students would come on out to the front, Caitlin Moon from Montgomery County, District 15, Winston Churchill High School. Janelle Jim from Frederick County, District 4, Urbana High School. Jack Bodner, Montgomery County, District 17, Richard Montgomery High School. And Edward Sun, Prince George's County, District 21, Eleanor Roosevelt High School. Please welcome them warmly. And students, we are delighted that you are with us. We know that you've been joining us virtually, but today you will really get a sense of the energy in person. So thank you so much for spending time with us, and we wish you well on your next adventure in life. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Pages. We look forward to working with you today. Hope you enjoy your experience.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I have one more introduction. Above me is Ashley Dummett from Washington College, who is interning with me in our office. Thank you so much, Ashley, for being with us. Let's give her a warm welcome as well.
Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you.
Other introductions. Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have some special guests up in the gallery above you this morning. Joining us today is a delegation from Spain who are visiting Maryland as part of the U.S. Department of State's International Visitor Leadership Program. The delegation consists of program managers, directors, and CEOs from cities throughout Spain who are interested in learning about state-level public policy issues. And please join me in offering them a warm welcome to the Maryland Senate.
Welcome, welcome. We hope you're having safe travels and enjoying your experience. All right, Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd District, followed by the senator from Frederick City.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today we're joined by the widows of members of the Professional Firefighters of Maryland sitting behind me, visiting today from Howard and Frederick County, advocating for firefighter safety legislation to be heard later today in the Finance Committee. I do want to take an opportunity to recognize some important people, and I'd ask they stand when I call their names. Miss Celeste Flynn and her 3 children, Tegan, Connor, and Brecken, widow and children of Lieutenant Nate Flynn, who passed away in the line of duty in 2018 in Howard County, as well as Sarah Laird and her 2 children, Aaron and Madeline, widow of and children of Battalion Chief Josh Laird, who died in the line of duty in Frederick, Maryland in 2021. Ladies, your husbands made the ultimate sacrifice, and this body is extremely grateful. And colleagues, I ask you to join me in extending our gratitude to them and those who have joined us today in uniform. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our hearts are with you and appreciate you being here today, and can't imagine. Thank you all. Chair recognizes the senator from Frederick City.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was told that about 10 veterans were coming this morning in hopes of seeing Senate Bill 155 for a homeless veterans pass, so I wish you would welcome them.
All right, welcome to those veterans who are joining. Chair recognizes the senator from College Park.
Thank you, Mr. President. The doctor of the day has come back for a return engagement. His first participation was very successful. Dr. Demetria Coupet from Laurel. Please welcome and thank him for his work with us. Thank you, Dr. Coupet.
Thank you for coming back. All right, any other introductions? Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, I have a wonderful constituent shadowing me today. Matt Amon is here. He's a lawyer. He's worked in the judiciary. He's been a professor. He's worked at the American Red Cross and is active in the city of Gaithersburg. Please join me in welcoming Matt Amon to the Senate.
Welcome, welcome. All right, I think that's everyone. Let's go ahead and jump in. We are probably going to have to do a double session today, so we're hitting that point in session where things are going to be longer and longer when the work starts. So we'll do as much as we can. We'll probably come back around 3 o'clock today. There's some evening engagements that we'll have that are going to require some people to be out. So we'll start at 3, and then we'll see what happens with tomorrow. So we'll do the best we can. So without objection, we will waive the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Let's get some of our administrative things out of the way. This is a message from the House, number 5. Clerk will read the message.
Senate Bill 6, Senator Wallstreicher, Landlord Tenant Residential Leases, Tenant Rights and Protections, Tenant Protection Act of 2022.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills, passed by the yeas and nays. We've now got another message from the House. This is number 30. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 1050, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses, Limits, Prince George's 30522 Rules.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They will be sent to the Standing Committee on Rules. We've got another one. Clerk will read the message. Here we go. 31.
I got it. Senate Bill 228, Senator Ferguson, Maryland Core Program Revisions, B&T and EHE.
I think that's the concurrence. Right. We're not on that one quite yet.
Okay, well, I don't have
I don't have it. I give it back.
I
it is this one. It is this one.
We just did that. I just read it. I can read it again.
That's right. It's that one. It's 31.
House Bill 1050, Prince George's County Delegation. Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses Limits 30522 Rules.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They will be referred to the appropriate, to the Standing Committee on Rules. All right, we have a special order. This is calendar number 76. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 528, Senator Pinsky, Climate Solutions Act, Now Act of 2022. Question is, will the Senate concur in the House amendments?
All right, Senators, the question before the body is, shall the Senate concur in the House amendments? Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. There were a number of amendments that were added. I know we briefly talked about that. Are we going to explain those in any more detail? Is that possible? Would the floor leader be willing to do that?
Sure. Let's hear from the chair of the committee on the.
In a sense, that's what we're agreeing to now, right? All of the House amendments on this piece of legislation.
Correct.
We've sent it over. They've amended it. We're now agreeing to all of those amendments.
Correct. That's the question before the body. Correct.
Right.
There are 10 amendments, Senator. First one is technical. The second one requires at least 40% of the funding from the C3 fund, that's the new Green Bank Fund, to be used for qualified projects in low to moderate income communities, and establishes a mandatory appropriation of $500,000 in years 24 through 28 for the Healthy Soils Program. Amendment 3 strengthens language relating to the responsibilities of the Department of the Environment on the environmental justice and sustainability communities, including requiring the department to incorporate environmental and climate justice considerations into all recommendations. I'm just checking on this.
I know there's a lot of amendments, but there was 2 bills that the House actually added into this amendment, or into this bill?
Yes.
And just, can you explain that? Because I know one of the bills, at least, that we've heard in Finance Committee for a number of years that we have not moved forward on, and then it just appears as an amendment in this broader bill?
That's correct. One is what's called a pilot school bus piece of legislation. And that sets up a program to, as a pilot program, to shift buses to electric vehicles or zero emissions vehicles, but allows a jurisdiction that proceeds down that path to set up an arrangement with a utility where it's an electric vehicle during the 10 months, and they can use the storage and the energy in the buses as a pushback to the utilities during the summer months when they're not using the electric vehicle, if they are electric vehicle buses, to the utilities. So it actually gets superseded by language we had in the bill that calls for all the school buses in the state to shift towards zero emissions, particularly electric vehicle, utilizing the infrastructure money from the federal government. So this was a freestanding bill, as you know,
right.
And it's a pilot. Personally, I think it's somewhat subsumed by the broader shift to zero emissions vehicles that we have in the bill, but it does allow, it doesn't mandate, it authorizes a local jurisdiction that wants to try this offline arrangement with utilities if they want to move ahead. And I think there's been one example where the utilities help buy the buses, and then in the summer months, they lease back the energy to the utilities. So that's one of the bills.
Right, and that's the one I'm concerned about, because one, as you suggested in the original legislation, was just a policy change. You've decided that we're going to require school buses to go toward a clean energy source. This pilot program comes with a $50 million price tag to it. And that's what's been concerning to many of us that have seen this bill over and over again, is that the utility company can, in the form of rebates, give a school system the differential in the cost of a diesel bus and the electric bus up to $50 million in this course of time. And then the utility companies are able to recover that cost through rate increases. And that's what's been very concerning about this, is you could have, for instance, I know Montgomery County has discussed this, Montgomery County could go forward and take up to $50 million in rebates from the electric company, and on the transmission side, so whatever equipment is needed to charge these buses, and any type of facilities that are necessary, they could take all of that, build that into a rate case, go before the Public Service Commission. This Public Service Commission then could increase rates for everybody within that service territory. And that's what's really concerning about that one piece of legislation that's in this much broader bill, or at least a concern of mine.
No, and I understand your concern, Senator. Look, first of all, we don't know. This is a pilot program that hasn't been done yet. It's my understanding at least one jurisdiction has already started on shifting to electric vehicles or zero emission vehicles without this model. And we believe if the infrastructure money comes through, most jurisdictions, if they apply for it, will use that to do the shift as buses reach their life cycle. So we're not forcing them out. So when they have to be replaced, they hit the 10 or 12 or 15 years. For whatever reason, the House thinks this is a creative solution that is allowed to be used. It does not mandate it. We don't know if any jurisdiction will actually utilize it. We don't know what the cost will be. It's a pilot. I think it has limits on it, so we didn't feel that it hurt the broad core of the bill, so we accepted it.
Well, it was a priority of the electric companies to pass this bill over a number of years because, again, of the way that they can rebate out $50 million and come back and recover that with their rate of return on it through all of the ratepayers, which is, again, why we've haven't seen this pass before. So, again, the House is putting something into a broader bill, and we're kind of in that take it or leave it type of scenario right now with this bill. And I know you're not happy about everything that's in the bill, and I think a lot of us are not. And I certainly don't agree with the bill itself. I respect your passion and what you've tried to do with this bill, and I think that they've gutted the bill, to be honest. I think that they've done a lot more damage in this piece of legislation than we're getting out of it. And, I know that's not where we are, but that's the question on it. Are we going to, sit back and just accept these House amendments because we want to put through a bill that says Climate Solutions Act of 2022? I'm not going to vote for it, as I'm sure you can figure out, but I am just going to see that I am seeing a series of bills that are coming across from the House of Delegates that are going to start off immediately with this take it or leave it perspective from us. And we are all aware of it now. It's not a secret anymore. It's not, hey, games behind that are being played. We're all seeing it, and this is number one. And I know that this side of the aisle is going to start pointing out these bills because we're feeling marginalized. The Senate is feeling marginalized right now. We have now become the House of Delegates Annex. And it's very, very frustrating to see all the work that we're doing, whether we agree on the bills or not. We're putting a lot of effort into good policy over here. And we might not agree on everything, but we work hard and we put a lot of thought into what we're doing, and we're getting run over by the House of Delegates, and this is number one. And I'm going to vote against this, but I think everybody should be aware that we're starting the ticker on how many bills are coming across like this that we're going to have to take it or leave it.
Mr. President, I'm not sure if that was a question or not.
I suspect it was not.
But
Senator may proceed on the amendment.
I'll assume there was an "isn't that so" at the end of that comment. Senator, the core of the bill we sent over, calling for a 60% reduction instead of 2030, but it's now 2031, remains in the bill, and that's very important. We call for emissions reductions by existing buildings. That remains in the bill. We set up a green bank. That stays in the bill. We create a climate corps for young people to work in disproportionately affected communities. That stays in the bill. We shift the state fleet from tradition gas engines to, when they reach their life cycle, to go to zero emissions or electric vehicles. We retain in the bill a broader shift for school buses, and school buses create danger. It contributes to asthma. We understand that. That remains in the bill. So there are some small things. I think this issue of the pilot program will end up being less of an issue because of the umbrella policy on shifting from school buses from traditional engines to electric or other zero emissions. So we stand behind the bill, and as you yourself mentioned, you voted against it the first time around, so I'm not sure the amendments from the House were a relevant factor.
All right, on the amendments, Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's.
Would the floor leader yield for a question?
So, Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Along the similar line, the vein of my colleague from Senate Finance, on this pilot program, was the committee given a letter, which of course our committee, I know that I asked for from Prince George's County School System, whether or not they would be able to utilize this pilot program?
Senator, no. And the Senator, this allows, it authorizes if someone wants to do it. It does not require it. It's a pilot.
Understood. Did the program so in not having received that, a major concern for this pilot program, which by the way, this process does seem to supersede our committee process, which I'm very disappointed by, okay? But a major portion of this problem, Senator, was that there was a county that was ready for this, and a county that you and I represent was not, but that our constituents would be asked to pay for these buses for another county. Did that come up in any of the deliberation with regard to this matter?
Not that I know of.
Okay, because the ratepayers, those who are trying to pay for their medicine, are going to be asked to pay for these school buses for another jurisdiction? When there is a program, as you said, that supersedes, or should rather, why would you include this, or why should we include this in this bill when there is plenty of money that doesn't take money out of the hardworking people, the hardworking ratepayers in our various jurisdictions, that this provision will do?
I don't think we know if this will be a liability or used at all, Senator. Beyond that, I don't know what to tell you. This has been a freestanding bill, and I understand it was in a committee in the House, and I do understand it came in to your committee. It was put into this bill as one of a number of amendments because we think there is a broader policy. We're just not convinced it's going to be used or there's going to be a liability to other working families across the state. And look, if we want next year, we come back next year, or many of us will come back next year, we can take it up next year if we think it's a liability and bad public policy. It's not going to be used next year.
Thank you. I just thank you for that. I just do have I just want to say that I am very troubled by having legislation that we are considering, that we have considered, that we are still contemplating, by the way, basically being put onto another. I mean, I'm new here, so I don't know. I thought we had some rules where you know, single subject and things like that. I'm a little troubled by the way that this is happening. I'm disappointed because I'm overall very, very supportive of this bill, but this is very, very troubling. It's very, very troubling, and I'm very upset about it. Thank you.
All right. Question is on the concurrence with the House amendments. Chair recognizes Senator from Montgomery County, followed by the Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that
and colleagues, I will offer a little clarification to what you're witnessing at the moment, because this has been an issue that is before the Finance Committee, and I will share with you that, number one, when we passed this bill over to the House, language was in the bill that allowed exactly what is happening in this pilot program. There were just no guardrails, and there was no specification as to how it would be done. But it would permit exactly what is happening. But what you're witnessing, colleagues, is parochialism rearing its very ugly head. We are the state of Maryland. Our decision process does not end at jurisdictional boundaries. If that were the attitude that we take on every bill we vote out of here, nothing would ever get passed. And I will share with you, there's this misperception that somehow Montgomery County will disproportionately benefit with passage of this pilot program. Nothing could be further from the truth. Colleagues, Montgomery County is already doing this. We have prioritized the environment and the health and well-being of our children so that they're no longer sucking down diesel fuel exhaust as they go to school every day, as they stand at the bus stop, as they wait at school to be loaded onto the buses. We've already prioritized that in Montgomery County. This pilot program may well have no benefit whatsoever for Montgomery County, because in Montgomery County we have contracted out to a private company to provide the electric buses. This pilot program will allow those jurisdictions in the state without the necessary resources to work with the Public Service Commission and their local utility companies to buy buses that they don't have the money to purchase. And through the utility companies, they'll buy the buses. When the buses are idle, they will then have the right to draw back, because the buses have huge battery storage capacity. And when done in quantity, when it is peak load time during the summer and electrical demand is at its highest, and the cost of electricity to every one of our residents across the state of Maryland is at its highest, the utilities, as part of this pilot program, have the right to tap into the stored electricity in those buses that are sitting parked in storage lots across the state during the summer and not being used, bringing down the electricity rates and costs for everybody, regardless of where your jurisdiction ends. So I'm trying to clarify for all of you the rhetoric that I've had to listen to in the Finance Committee and the misrepresentations that needed to be corrected. Colleagues, there is a maximum amount of $50 million that can be utilized for programs across the entire state of Maryland. Now, if the decision is made that on the Eastern Shore they don't choose to prioritize what we in Montgomery County have done, so be it. But if they choose to do so, this will provide the Eastern Shore, Prince George's County, and every jurisdiction in the state of Maryland the opportunity to start moving forward to protect our environment and the health and well-being of our children. I hope it's not lost on anyone that asthma, which is directly related to air pollution And every test that has been done, every study on this issue of diesel and the exhaust in our children on school buses has indicated when those buses are electrified, asthma rates and cases go down. And I hope it's not lost that it is our minority communities across the state that suffer to the greatest degree from the pollution that we are trying to deal with in this legislation that's before us. So I hope that clarifies the issue for you colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, have any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you may recall that over the last couple of years, repeatedly I have tried to pass legislation which would require that solar panels be put on the roofs of our schools. Thanks to the Built to Learn Act, we are going to spend $2.2 billion on new schools, and that's just through the Built to Learn Act. With regular school funding, it's going to be billions more. We are going to build dozens and dozens and dozens of new schools around the state for the next 10 years. And I got a friendly amendment added to this bill a couple of weeks ago to require the people building these schools to consider the possibility of solar panels on the roofs. And if they decide not to do it, to report to the IAC why they decided not to put solar panels on the roofs. It is our grandchildren are going to refer to us as crazy and say, what were they thinking when we adopted policies that did not put solar panels on roofs, but instead covered our agricultural productive land with solar panels? It is the wrong way to go. We passed that as a friendly amendment on this bill. That amendment has been struck out by the House. It's crazy. We're going to spend billions of dollars on new schools with flat roofs, and there's no requirement now that any of the builders have to even consider the possibility of solar panels on the roofs. I urge a red vote on the concurrence.
All right, question is on the concurrence. Are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, the senator from Prince George's.
Thank you for the indulgence, and I really do appreciate it. There are a few things that I think that are very important. I'm very supportive of the policy of electrifying school buses. The question is, how do we do it? How do we do it? There is tremendous federal money that is available, as the floor leader mentioned, which is available for this to do it. There are things inside this bill that do it. But this pilot program creates a mechanism that takes money, it just baffles me, takes money from the least of us in order to pay for those who have more. And it is across the entire state. That's what I'm in here fighting for. I'm in here fighting for everyone across the state whose electric bills could potentially go up 6 to 7% when there's no need for it. When there's federal money that we're going to access, and there are other mechanisms that we can utilize in order to get there. This pilot program says $50 million per utility, not $50 million across the entire state. As I mentioned, I'm starting to feel like we're JPR out here a little bit, and I apologize for that. But the point is, this should be done in finance, not in here on this particular bill. And that is where I am deeply concerned. I'm still supportive of this overall bill. I just am unhappy that we have superseded our process. Thank you.
All right. Questions on the House amendments, on the concurrence? Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's great to be back. I was going stir crazy in my room. I actually was watching the debate yesterday. And I'm just going to take us back to when we first heard this bill. It was presented that climate change was potentially going to be danger of our very existence, and we need to save the planet. And then we heard about the fires and the floods and the rising sea level and Annapolis water coming up here. And then I was surprised with the comments I heard yesterday to concur. And I heard that this bill was a consensus bill we sent over to the House. Let me just remind the body, this was a partisan bill, party line vote that was sent over to the House. It was not a consensus bill. And then not only that, I understood why we voted against it, but I'm confused with the comments I heard here yesterday. We heard regarding climate solutions, the House of Delegates is in full retreat on climate solutions. They're caving to the fossil fuels. But we want to concur with what they're doing. It reminds me of Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds, where he was fighting to save the planet. He was given every ounce that he had. And if this side of my aisle believes this bill will save the planet, you should go to the mat. Reject this concurrence. My God, if we're saving the planet, why would you accept it? But what we found out a couple weeks ago, when we dug deeper into the bill and saw what it did and what it didn't do, we saw that there was no measurable impact on the environment by this bill. It would not save the planet. It wouldn't even save the floods, the fires in Maryland, not one single one. I also was concerned that we put this all into one bill. There were some things in this concurrence that I thought were good ideas that the House struck. Had it been a single bill, I would have voted for it. But this still mandates millions and probably billions of dollars of retrofits. It still says it's the intent of the General Assembly to basically ban gas in new and construction and existing buildings. That going forward, that's our intention. Governor Hogan called this an energy tax while we're at a cost of living problem in Maryland and throughout America. So with those reasons, the squeeze is definitely not worth the juice. We should be putting this energy at the national level and more so at the global level so we can have real impact, so we can really save the planet and not focus on being a role model that was brought up on this floor from your side of the aisle saying it's a good thing to be role models, but at what expense? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the concurrence. All right, Chair recognizes the floor leader on the concurrence.
Mr. President, I have to respond to the last comments. I feel like we're in Alice in Wonderland. This is from the folks who voted against it in the last form. They're going to vote against it in this form, saying why the other people who supported this should not. Ladies and gentlemen, we can sit on the sideline and watch history, or we can help shape history. You know, we can tell our children and grandchildren we took steps. We didn't stay silent. We didn't put our head in the sand. That's getting more water. We didn't ignore this, or we didn't deny climate change was real. We have taken steps. We call for a 60% reduction by 2031 and carbon neutrality in 2045. We become the third state, I believe, in the country that says large buildings are going to have to retrofit. They are going to have to reduce emissions. We set up a climate corps for the first time in this state to have young people work in urban environments disproportionately affected that have had these major cases of asthma. This bill takes many, many steps. So the question before us is, do we want to help shape our future, our history of our state and our planet, or do we want to sit on the sidelines silent? I urge a concurrence.
All right, on the concurrence, I think we're ready for the question. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, the amendments from the House are adopted. Question before the body now is Senate Bill 528, which is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote?
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6 has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you. I don't think anybody on this floor is ignoring anything. I think we've all been very, very pro in trying to be as green as possible. And I think we're trying to do the best that we can. We take care of the Chesapeake, who is our gem. We try to take care of our communities. I see my neighbors recycling. I see they're being very responsible and doing the things that they need to do. And I think I have good people in my community, just as you do, to try to do the great things. I see throughout the area where we have solar panels on people's roofs. I see solar panels in our fields where we have farms. I see things that are being encouraged in our state. I don't see anybody in here saying, let's not do this. But I see them saying, we need to do better. And I think we're being responsible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 528, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Everyone all right? Thought we had a spill there almost. All right, well, if we're ready at a B&T while we're annexing, let's just go ahead and annex the whole way. We got another concurrence. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 228, Senator Ferguson, Maryland Core Program Revisions, B&T and EHE. Motion to concur with the House amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. As passed by the Senate, this bill restructured the Maryland Core Program. The House amendments modified the membership of the board and established a prioritization of individuals to participate. Budget and tax moves to concur.
All right, the chairman moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 228 is now before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone changed their vote, explained their vote? Chair, in explaining his vote in this concurred upon bill, recognizes that the legislative process at times is about compromise. We have a bicameral body, we have two chambers. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't, and when we don't, we try to find a way to work through it. And I think that's what the best of the legislature looks like. With that, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 228, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got a layover calendar. Number 50. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 145, Delegate Crosby, State Finance and Procurement Prevailing Wage Stop Work Orders. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable report.
All right, Senators, question is on the one committee amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 145 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. We've got another layover calendar. This is 51. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 609, Delegate Pena-Milnick, Local Health Officers Removal Grounds and Process. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the two committee amendments. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
I'm sorry, could we just, the two committee amendments were what?
Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you.
The two committee amendments. Are they conforming to the Senate version potentially?
The two committee amendments conform Senate Bill 609 to Senate Bill 548. I move the amendments. We've already moved them, so that's really all it does.
Conforming to the Senate version is passed. So, all right. Any further discussion on the amendments? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Whoa. It's like Pavlov. All right. On the amended report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 609 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's go to Finance, this is calendar 3232. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 413, the Speaker, Health Insurance, Individual Market Stabilization, Extension of Provider Fee, favorable.
All right, question is on the favorable report. Let's hear from the floor leader. Just a moment.
Indulge for 5 seconds. We're a
All
little
good.
out
No
of
worries.
order. Went a little out of order on the report.
We got a lot on the floor today, so.
Yes, Mr. President. For those of us, or for those of you who were not here in 2018, this bill brought by the governor, a little background, if you'll indulge me. I think this is a significant piece of legislation. So, strongly supported also by the Maryland Insurance Administration and the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange. So back in 2018, we were faced with a huge problem in our individual insurance market. And again, for those of you who were here, you remember. For those of you who were not, I'm going to give you some numbers. So back in 2018, we were faced with a 20 to 40% premium increase that had already been approved in the individual market for 2017 and 18. And what had happened was, as the premiums rose, healthy people with fewer claims started to drop out of the marketplace in the individual market, leaving older, sicker folks with more claims in that market. And the projections at that time when we were sitting here in 2018 is that market was looking at 40 to 50% premium increases. So we worked with the governor, bipartisan basis, to go to the federal government, get a waiver to create a reinsurance program that would stabilize that market. We got a 5-year waiver, which expires in 2023, created the reinsurance market. It was funded with a fee on health insurance carriers, who you would have thought would have been opposed to the bill at the time to create the reinsurance program, but they actually supported it because they were concerned about an unstable 40 to 50% premium increases in that market. So it was largely a kumbaya moment. This chamber, at that time, that assessment was 2.75%, and we came here on the floor, Mr. President, and we took a vote, and I've got the vote list here. This chamber voted for that bill, 43 to 4. A year later, we came back and we actually reduced that from 2.75 down to 1%, and we took another vote on the floor, and the Senate approved that, 37 to 8, that tax reduction piece of legislation, and that's the fee that we are at today. And it has been a huge, huge success. So what's happened since 2018? Premiums in that market have gone down 32%. 32%. We were looking at 40 to 50% increases, 32% reduction over the last 3 years. That is 20 to 30% below the national average. And don't trust me, look at the fiscal note. 20 to 30% below the national average, the lowest in the nation in the individual market in the United States of America. Enrollment in the individual market has grown by 25% since the 2018 lows. And so what this bill is, and I'll read the committee report, but what this bill essentially is, that waiver was for 5 years. The governor, our governor, the Maryland Insurance Administration, the exchange believe that it's imperative that we go back to the federal government and apply for a second 5-year waiver to avoid going back to the massive premium increases we were looking at back in 2018. The MIA, our insurance administration, specifically testified that if we don't extend the reinsurance program, the increases will be likely over 50% in the first year. The exchange says it could triple. And why we're dealing with it now is the application process to go to the federal government and get the waiver is coming up on us, and you can read about it in the fiscal note. It's March 31st of 2023, but in order to get the application ready in March of 2023, we have to do actuarial studies. A lot has to go into it, so we can't just punt the ball to the next session. So in a nutshell, Mr. President, that's essentially what the bill does. And in terms of the formal committee report, which I'm about to read to you, with all that background, House Bill 413, an administration bill brought by our governor, extends the existing state health insurance provider fee assessment through calendar 2028. Hope to get that new 5-year waiver to assist in the continued stabilization of the individual health insurance market. As amended by the House, the bill exempts standalone dental and vision plans from certain regulatory assessments for each year in which the health insurance provider fee is paid by these plans. In addition, the bill provides that funds received from the health insurance provider fee assessment may only be used for state reinsurance program and other authorized purposes established under current law. The bill also requires the Maryland Insurance Administration, in consultation with the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange and Maryland Health Commission, to submit a report on the impact of the reinsurance program. And in developing the report, MIA must consider, among other things, whether the level of funding is appropriate and whether the assessment is appropriately apportioned among the various carriers or should be broadened to include other business sectors and be supplanted with general funds. Mr. President, there are no amendments to the House bill, and again, with all that, I appreciate the indulgence. I would move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Further to move to the adoption of the favorable committee report, and actually just want to really appreciate the Vice Chair's description of the scenario. I think it's pretty remarkable what Maryland's been able to do. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of Budget and Tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree. The explanation was terrific. I was here in 2018. It was terrific then. It's terrific now. I'm very supportive. One of the points you made, which I didn't know, is that we have much lower rates in the individual market than other states, largely because of this. I have a question for you, if you'll yield for a question.
Yes, sir.
Senator may proceed.
If it works so well, are other states doing it and not doing it as well, or are other states not doing it?
Yes, there are several other states. I think we're up to 9 or 10. Everyone does it a little bit differently. But yes, I would say of all the issues we've been dealing with over the past number of years, healthcare is one where we've been out front of the United States. Whether it was the easy enrollment plan, if you have no health insurance, you check a box, the young adult subsidy program we created last year, the Prescription Drug Affordability Board, Mr. President. We have been out front of the United States on healthcare broadly. And this one, in 2018, we were the first out of the box. I think there's 8 or 9 states. Each one does it a little differently, but innovative, important, and has been extremely successful.
All right, on the favorable report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 413 is ordered passed to third reading. All right, let's go to our special order calendar. Are we ready for this one? It's been hanging. It's a Senate bill. Trying to see if we need to move it. This is Special Order 74. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 975, Senator Jennings, property tax exemption, disabled veteran, active duty, and surviving spouse application process. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
All right. It's on third reading. It looks like we have an amendment, though. Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Can I move to
reconsider the
vote on second reader and bring it on
third reader
and bring it to second?
All right, Senator is moving to reconsider the vote by which the bill passed second reading. Are there any objections to the Senator's motion? The sponsor objects? No, just kidding. Without objection, the motion carries. The bill is now back on second reader, open to amendment. Pages will collect the amendment, and we will have an explanation once we get it out to the senators. Senator may explain the amendment.
So, if you might remember, this is a great bill, actually, and it's going to help some of our veterans, active duty, there's surviving spouse folks actually get into some housing and use this property tax exemption. The way in which it requires to work to ensure that they get the highest benefit is that they get sort of pre-approved for this, and there were some timing issues, and all this does is correct a change that was made to ensure that there's enough time, 15 business days, to get the information so that they can purchase these houses at lower cost.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Are there any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 975 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. We'll make sure we get this one up for the session this afternoon. We've got another Senate bill here. This is number 75. The special order calendar 75. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 860, Senator King, property tax, community solar energy generating systems, agrivoltaics. Questions on the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
All right, question is on the adoption of the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I think we're working on an amendment which will be a friendly amendment, and in order to enable that to be prepared, I'd ask the bill be special ordered until tomorrow morning, first thing.
All right, any objections? No objections. Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to the appropriate time this afternoon, the second session. All right. Let's do a quorum call before third reading calendar so we can get these Senate bills out of here.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Could we ring the bells, Madam Secretary? All right, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and the quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. This is third reading calendar number 73, Senate bills. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 155, Senator Young, State Lottery, Instant Ticket Lottery Machines, Fraternal Organizations.
All right, Senate Bill 155 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 155, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 244, Senator Feldman, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Self-Measured Blood Pressure Monitoring.
Senate Bill 244 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 244, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 350, Senator Signor, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Community Violence Prevention Services.
Senate Bill 350 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 350, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 389, Senator Jackson, Public Safety, Maryland Police Accountability Act, revisions and clarifications.
Senate Bill 389 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
Yeah, question for the floor leader, please.
Will the floor leader yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there was some question that left sort of unanswered when this emerged from the committee, and that was as to whether there's a prohibition in this bill that states that the disciplinary processes cannot be impacted by collective bargaining agreements. And there was discussion that we would ask the Attorney General for an opinion as to whether that provision would survive in light of the federal laws concerning non-interference with collective bargaining agreements. And I just wondered if we ever got any clarification from that.
So we did make the request. I have not been in receipt of a firm answer. I did speak to my county about this, and just to be completely candid, they have never gone this far to the fact that the CBA has never been terminated because they've never come to an agreement. They've just never reached that frontier. That's the refined guidance that I've received from my county. And I know that I think 4 or 5 counties have CBAs of this nature.
Thank you. That just speak on the bill then.
On the bill. Senator may proceed.
Yeah, so this whole evolution down the police, the amendments of the police disciplinary process, that was all as a result of problems that the 5 major jurisdictions in the state had with their disciplinary processes for law enforcement. That's what started us down that was the entree into the entire police reform bills last year. And as I got up last year and gave a detailed history explaining that the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights that Governor Schaefer said when he was governor, that if you allowed collective bargaining agreements to be an exception to the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, it would cease to be an effective mechanism, that it would lead to public distrust in our law enforcement, that it would lead to problems, difficulties, removing police officers who should not be police officers from the system. And those warnings were ignored, and the amendment was allowed in by the General Assembly to allow collective bargaining agreements to supplant the police disciplinary processes. Now, and that was all these changes we're making, including this bill, they all revolve around, hey, we messed up. Collective bargaining agreements were the problem, that you shouldn't have them supplanting other statewide procedures on police disciplinary process. So now here we are in 2022, we put this into effect. The challenge we have is that the collective bargaining agreements, those same 5 jurisdictions, typically just roll over to the following year. They don't amend them. The federal law says we can't interfere with the collective bargaining agreements. And now, so these changes we make can only come into effect when there's a new collective bargaining agreement. But there's an easy way around that. The collective bargaining agreements say that if we don't agree to a new collective bargaining agreement, they just roll over in perpetuity. And that's the challenge we face, is that if these changes don't impact the 5 major jurisdictions who are going to avoid all of this, the ones who cause all this problem, if we're going to avoid all of this, then all of this is for naught. We're kidding ourselves, and we're just making these unnecessary these changes completely unnecessarily, because the other jurisdictions had established records that, in fact, they were disciplining their law enforcement officers, they were removing problem officers, they were doing it very effectively. So I'm just really disturbed that here we sit with yet another amendment to this, and the root of the whole problem is left untouched. And so thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. On third reading for final passage, any further discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair recognizes Senator from District 4.
I just want to explain my vote. Philosophically, I do agree with the senator from District 34. It said, practically speaking, though, the sheriffs and chiefs, the FOPs have worked together on this amendment and came to us and said, and quite frankly, your local government's going to need this to have time to be able to implement this. So I agree last year with the flawed process. If obviously I had to do my way, we wouldn't do it. But I do think this amendment does help clarify that. And quite frankly, our local police came to us and asked us for a lot of this language to help clarify the law. Thanks.
All right, any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 389, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 506, Senator Salling, procurement, construction contracts, contract modification, report.
Senate Bill 507 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 507, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senator from the 34th, the mic button. So. All right, clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 683, Senator Kagan, Renewable Energy for Nonprofit Organizations Loan Program.
Senate Bill 683 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 683, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 724, Senator King, Gross Receipts Tax on Short-Term Lease or Rental of Heavy Equipment Alterations.
Senate Bill 724 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 724, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read. Oh, nope, that'll do it for that calendar. Let's go to the next Senate bill calendar of third readers. This is 74. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 778, Senator Lamb, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Children and Pregnant Women, Healthy Babies Equity Act.
Senate Bill 778 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 778, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 798, Senator Gazzoni, Goodwill Excel Center Appropriation.
Senate Bill 798 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 798, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 836, Senator Jennings, Procurement Information Technology, Cloud-Based Virtual Desktop Infrastructure.
Senate Bill 836 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 836, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 913, Senator Bailey, Board of Public Works, Historic Sartally Operating Grant.
Senate Bill 913 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 913, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 974, Senator Jennings, Department of Natural Resources, Real Property Exchange with Private Real Property.
Senate Bill 974 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 974, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1009, Senator Zucker, prior authorizations of state debt alterations.
Senate Bill 1009 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1009, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair recognizes the senator from District 4.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On Senate Bill 778, I want to record it in the red.
Green to red on 778. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
And there's one other one. On Senate Bill 350, my button didn't work, and it'd be in the green. Thank you.
Green on 350. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from 38th.
On the Bill 778, going from green to red, thanks.
Green to red on 778. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Senate Bill 244, I'd like to be recorded in the green.
244 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from District 7.
778, green to red.
All right, 778, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from 36th.
778, green to red, please.
All right, 778, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. District 6.
I think it's 778, green to red.
778, green to red. All right, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, I think that does it for those. Where are we? Okay, let's get these Senate bills. We've got a report on budget and tax. We're going to second readers again, the Senate bill calendar. This is report number 3838.
Senate Bill 597, Senator Gazzoni, Income Tax, Theatrical Production Tax Credit, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 597 creates a credit against the state income tax for 25% of qualified theatrical production costs incurred in the state. Committee, there are 3 amendments. Number 1 adds co-sponsors. Number 2 reduces the total amount of the credits that may be issued in any given year to $5 million. Number 3 sunsets the credit after 5 years. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. On the amended report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 597 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 729, Senator McCray, Baltimore City, use of highway user revenues for traffic functions and enforcement modification, favorable.
Chair recognizes the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 729 expands the authorized use of highway user revenues for Baltimore City. The bill authorizes Baltimore City to use its HUR to pay any costs incurred for carrying out traffic functions and enforcing the traffic laws. Under current law, Baltimore City may only use our HUR dollars to pay for the cost incurred by the police department to carry out the traffic functions and enforcing the traffic laws. Move adoption of the committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 729 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. We've got a report from the Committee on Finance with a Senate bill in it here. Small little bill. This is report number 30. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 833, Senator Feldman, Cannabis, legalization and regulation, favorable with 4 amendments. This is a constitutional amendment.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Another small policy bill from the Senate Finance Committee for the Chamber. A little background on this one too. Before I do the formal floor report, I do think some context is important. We've been obviously dealing with the topic of cannabis in Maryland back to when we created the medical cannabis program, and back then, and the political landscape has shifted pretty darn dramatically since then. When we had a debate on this floor, it was considered politically controversial. We heard about federal law and all this and all that, and that was then. And now we have 37 states in the United States. We were one of the first out of the box on that one. 37 states now have medical cannabis programs. Here in Maryland, we are up to 150,000 registered medical cannabis patients. And when I say 37 states, that's blue, red America have enacted those programs. It's become so mainstream here in our own state. Many of you may not know that we actually have at the University of Maryland a master's in cannabis in our University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, first of its kind in the United States. So right now we have 150,000 folks in our state using legal cannabis, the patients. As for transitioning now, and that's the topic of this discussion, to adult use cannabis use, I have to make the point when I say adult use, we are talking about 21 years or older. And for the libertarian folks in the chamber, I mean, again, we're 21 years, this is adult use. I like folks use the term sort of recreational, it's adult use cannabis. And we are not first out of the box on this one either. We're now at 18 states in our nation have moved towards legalization. And in fact, it's again not blue America. In the November 2020 ballot, we had states such as Montana, South Dakota, Arizona, in our own area, New Jersey, at the ballot, approved moving to adult use legalization. And here on the East Coast, Mr. President, in our own region, just within the last year, we're talking the states of New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, again, I mentioned New Jersey at the ballot, Virginia, right over the river from my own Senate district, are moving in that direction. As for the bill in front of you here, we are not moving real quickly. We're taking a very, very methodical, deliberate approach. And I think that's the way I would describe this particular piece of legislation. There are folks that want to go broader. There are folks that don't want to go this far. But we're striking a balance in conjunction with where the House is, where the Senate Finance Committee is, and we've come up with what I believe is a good balanced, modest approach. If you're talking about the two chambers, it wasn't until recently the House position was we're only going to do a referendum and nothing else, nothing on criminal justice reform, not laying any foundation about potential future market and licensing. But they came our way on this one. So here's a product that goes well beyond the referendum. And so specifically what Senate Bill 833 does, renames marijuana as cannabis and makes corresponding statutory changes, requires the Cannabis Commission, the MBE certification agency, along with other state entities, to complete studies, collect and report data, and develop specified standards regarding the use of cannabis, including a cannabis use baseline study and diversity study. We're doing a lot of studying before this all gets rolled out next year. Alters civil and criminal penalties related to cannabis. Authorizes specified resentencing and release of individuals convicted of use or possession of cannabis. Alters our expungement provisions. Establishes the Cannabis Business Assistance Fund, the Cannabis Public Health Advisory Council, and the Cannabis Public Health Fund, and the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund. And on that one, I'm going to give a shout out to a senator from District 40 and 43 who had legislation in. This is was created in their alternative legislation, has been rolled into this piece of legislation. Do I have the district wrong for Senator, may I use her name? Senator Carter?
Senator may proceed. 41.
41. So that particular last is specifically rolled out from the legislation that the senator from District 41 had in the committee. The bill's provisions related to the cannabis baseline study, the diversity study, and the subtraction modification take effect June 1, 2022. The remaining provisions are subject to the ratification of the constitutional amendment, which is in a separate bill, HB 1, that's in the Finance Committee that we'll be considering today. The establishment of a legal personal use amount for someone 21 years or older, up to 1.5 ounces, including no more than 2 homegrown plants per household, an adult sharing of a legal amount, and a civil use amount would go 1.5 to 2.5 ounces, subject to a civil fine of up to $250, and other related changes because of legalization will fully kick in for those small amounts on July 1, 2023. Provisions regarding expungement for possession of cannabis in the advisory Cannabis Public Health Advisory Council. Those provisions take effect on January 1st, 2023. Other provisions of Senate Bill 833 include adding a senator and delegate to the advisory council, setting fines of $250 and $500 for first and second offenses of smoking in public areas, changing intent to distribute cannabis to a misdemeanor, adding the smoking of cannabis to the indoor smoking ban that we currently have in law, stating legislative intent that the Cannabis Commission and the Alcohol Tobacco Commissions should be merged, prohibits the state from issuing cannabis established license application until the completion of the diversity study that's called for in the bill, and requiring an attorney general's opinion on the impact of cannabis legalization on police actions, the issue of probable cause, and some issues, again, that the senator from 41st has brought up. The 4 amendments alter the bill as I just described. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you. Would the floor leader yield for a couple questions?
Yes, sir.
So I haven't had time to read the amended bill. So if you could help me where we currently stand with levels that people smoke marijuana and are given a citation currently, it's not criminalized, and where this bill takes it with this bill.
Yeah, so right now under current law, we're talking 10 grams or less. This moves it, it's sort of 2 phases. So 1.5 ounces, and then there's a category called personal use, up to 1.5 ounces. And then between 1.5 and 2.5 ounces, we're characterizing that, what's the phraseology? Civil, yes, a civil possession amount of from between 1 and 2.5. So that's basically starting January 1st. If it's up to 1.5, and then it's again a separate category between 1.5 and 2.5, and then when we get to July of 2023, the 1.5 will basically supplant that 10 grams, And then at between 1 and 5 and 2.5, you'll still be subject to a civil penalty, but that will be after July of 2023. But actually, before July 2023, you'll still be subject to a civil penalty for just even up to the 1.5.
Okay.
So I hope that answers
Yeah,
that.
I don't have a conversion in my head. What is the, how many grams is that, 1.5 ounces?
1.
So right now it's 10 grams and we're going to 1.5 ounces. How many grams is 1.5 ounces?
0.3? 0.3.
Okay. And is this contingent on a constitutional amendment?
Yes, I think I mentioned that. So we have a constitutional amendment bill, and so this bill is subject to a passage of that. So if that does not pass at the ballot on November, assuming that HB1 gets out of the legislature here and is on the November ballot, none of what I'm just described will kick in until or unless the folks and the people and the voters of our state say that's where they want our state to go.
Okay, and I know many people are concerned about just throwing more things in our Constitution. We have seen a public shift on cannabis across the nation. We've seen polls here in Maryland, they're 60–70% consistently approve of it. Why do we feel the need to put it on the ballot and not just as their representatives move forward?
Sure, of course, we've had that same conversation on gaming. I mean, we've periodically had that discussion. We did have legislation last session, in fact, even this session, that would just go straight up a legalization bill without that. And as the Senate President mentioned, we have to take into account the two chambers here. I don't think it's any news here. The Speaker's position at one time was only a referendum, nothing more. Last year's bills that were straight up legalization bills stalled as a practical matter. We're trying to be pragmatic. We're trying to take into account perhaps the will of the folks of our state, and that's, I think, into the mix. So there have been other options in the past. Those have not moved. I think this is a good middle ground, weighing in with the assistance of the voters of Maryland in November. So I think we've done it before, and this is another option on the table that we're doing this time.
Okay, it just seems to put it in our Constitution when you're asking a question, when you know what the answer is going to be, just seems a little over the top. But you talked about the, for lack of a better term, drug dealers, I guess. If you distribute drugs at a certain level, I guess you become a dealer opposed to just a user. And I thought I heard in your explanation that this bill would make that a misdemeanor opposed to a felony. Is that correct?
So when you get over the 2.5 ounce number, you're into a different sort of category. And what's that? Yeah, we're only talking cannabis, just to be clear. So when you talk about drugs of any other sort, this is specifically just any of these changes. Everything else in our body of law is unaltered by this bill. So yes, when you get, if it's simply the intent to distribute, possession with intent to distribute, then when you get over the 2.5 ounces, you're into that category. And under the bill, unless there's other evidence of other issues like the big players, the king player, the penalty regime here was reduced from a felony in 5 years to misdemeanor in 3 years.
Okay, so we've reduced the penalty, the classification to a misdemeanor, and we've also reduced the jail time.
Correct.
Now you said when they get, because I haven't sat on JPR for a long time.
Sure, I'm not on JPR either. That's why we've got some backup here also over in
yeah.
JPR.
So you said something about like kingpin drug dealers. Is there another level besides this, or is this the top level for dealing drugs for penalties?
Yeah, I think we have a whole, and I could certainly yield to the vice chair of JPR potentially, but I think we would have a body of law dealing with big we have actually a separate category dealing with manufacturing, and that's largely not really addressed by this bill, but I don't think we're altering any of those provisions that are current law. What we're really dealing with here is nonviolent, small possession folks who are in the past we've had a mass incarceration of people in the category of being arrested and put in jail for having small possessions of cannabis, and so we are making some changes there. In addition, I have to just put that If convicted, you have some opportunities, whether it's expungement or resentencing. So that's all part of, I think, that part of this piece of legislation. So yes, I don't think we're adjusting any of the other body of law dealing with what you're talking about. That's unaffected by this legislation.
Okay, just to clarify, and I agree with what you're saying on the small amounts, but we were talking about larger amounts that typically would have gotten a felony charge and longer jail time. And I think you said if it's over 2.5 ounces, they would be getting a misdemeanor. So my question,
but can I just, let me clarify even that. If you're under the 2.5, I mean, that alone wouldn't be enough to, if there may be other evidence of other things, you would have to have that evidence in order to even get into that category.
Gotcha.
So you have some level of protection under that 2.5 ounces.
Yeah, but so to pinpoint my question, if you're over 2.5 ounces, there's a certain charge. Currently, it's a felony. This would go to misdemeanor and down to 3 years. Is there anything over 2.5? Say if you sell a pound of it, you get a different, or is it just anything over 2.5?
Well, then you're into a huge category. I mean, if you're doing that, then you're going to be under the same, I think, regime, felony, and everything else that's current law. So this doesn't alter any of that.
Okay, so there's tiered.
Well, I don't think it's tiers. What we're really, this bill's focused specifically on that, what was 10 grams, we're making it civil citation now to the 2.5 ounces. I think all the other stuff, again, is still current law.
Okay, and I can look at that later tonight. And I would think one of the challenges in legalizing this is that you don't want a black market.
Correct.
Which kind of goes to those who want to distribute it. So why would we reduce the penalties on those that would actually be in the black market?
Well, I don't, first of all, I don't, when you say this, yeah, I don't think this would accomplish what you're saying it does. One of the things, just to sort of to that point, yes, one of the reasons, no, we're not taking it up in this bill going to the market structure and licensing. One of the main goals of the states that have done that is to get the product out of the illicit market, untested, tax regulated. We're not going that far here. That may be for next session. But to your question about, and the other thing, some people may say that this 1.5 to 2.5 ounces is too low. One of the reasons we didn't go more ambitious on that is that if you, because it's not, there's no legal sales in the state right now, and this bill doesn't provide for that, we don't want to have 10 ounces being this sort of, you know, we could have gone that, but then you would say, well, where are people buying it? Well, they're going to be buying from the illicit market. We don't want to incentivize that, so we're keeping these, this 1.5 and 2.5 ounce number is small, sort of to your point. I don't think we can resolve the illicit market until we get to, you know, a full-blown market structure where instead of going to the illicit market, you're going to have to go to a legal regulated dispensary where you know the product's been tested. But I don't think this is really addressing you know, that concern, and I think will be dealt with there. The illicit market issues are here and now, and I don't think this bill ultimately really addresses that. This is those saying that if you know, have these small possession amounts, you shouldn't be thrown into jail and mass incarcerated, and obviously disproportionately impacted folks of color. Let's just, you know, put that out there as well.
Yeah, and I heard you on the small amounts, and I agree with you on that. But what I'm focusing on is on the larger amounts. One of the challenges throughout other states is trying to keep the black market from selling it cheaper and not as good quality and so forth. And this bill seems to be saying if you're dealing drugs, cannabis, let me just finish. Okay. Under current law, you have a certain penalty for dealing it. You're not using it just for yourself, you're actually distributing it to other people. We are going to actually reduce the classification from a felony down to a misdemeanor, and then also the penalty down.
Yeah, I have to interrupt you. Okay, the sale is under a completely different part of the code than this. This does not do anything to assist somebody who illegally is selling. This is possession. So I just want to make this clear point because
I thought you said with the intent to distribute.
Well, that's intent to distribute. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. We're not changing anything about kingpins, dealers, or anything like that in this bill. Just, you know, I think that when you get above the 2.5 ounces and you have it, then there's arguably, potentially you're subject to an intent with to distribute. But again, to your bigger point about having a pound or selling or dealing, that's the current law on all that is unimpacted by this bill.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, on the amendments,
Mr. President.
let's go. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City County, 44th District.
Very much. I had a question for the floor leader.
Yes, sir.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you very much. I'm just seeing this bill, and I just wanted to just get some clarification on a couple of things. One, there's an amendment, section 10-105.3, where it talks about resentencing. Could you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're looking at the language, I think it's, I want to say self-explanatory, but basically if you are in jail as a result of having been convicted of possession in these amounts that we just talked about, and we're getting past July 1st of 2023, when we're actually, for the smaller amounts, moving really into the legalization, you would have an opportunity, if you're sitting in jail having been convicted of possessing between 1.5 or under 2.5 ounces, you could go to the court and get resentenced or released. So there's a provision specifically dealing with the folks that are already in jail.
All right. And you had mentioned expungements, which I think I saw are in 2 different sections, 10-110. Those expungements, and again, I apologize. I'm just seeing this for the first time, trying to go through and capture what's going on. You're eligible for the expungement after, what, 3 years? Is that?
No, the 3 years is, that's only if you're already in for intent to distribute. If you're into that smaller category under the 2.5 ounces, then the expungement is mandatory. It shall be expunged. The 3 years after is only when you're above that 2.5 ounce possession conviction number, and then at that point you would have to wait a period of time, and then you can go get expunged. So we're delineating between that 2.5 ounce under conviction and folks above that.
Okay. And just
Senator, if you could speak up a little bit.
Sure. Just going back to the resentencing, the intent of the bill is to ensure that people who have been convicted of possessing, I guess, a certain amount of cannabis, we're trying to wipe away those convictions, correct?
Well, the expungement wipes it away. The resentence, I mean, you get to go to the court and say, I want to get out.
Incarcerated, right?
Right. The
Gotcha.
expungement
Okay.
would take care of the record stuff.
Right. Thank you.
Right.
All right, we'll go to Senator from District 6 on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make a statement with the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator may proceed.
First of all, I want to thank the opportunity that Finance had the opportunity to go through the bill, and also with Budget and Tax. We did go through most of the bill, but we have one problem. A major part of this bill is about law. It's about expungements. It's about things of civil action that are a part of this bill that need to be more discussed. And I'd like to refer this back to JPR, because I believe they're the part of this bill that should be talking about this, Mr. President. And there's a lot of questions, as we see on the floor right now, of some of the things that are happening in question about some of the things that are part of this bill. So I'd like the motion to refer this back to JPR, Mr. President.
All right, Senator has moved to refer the bill to JPR. Let's hear from the floor leader on the senator's motion.
I'd ask the body to resist it. We had there was a lot of discussion over in the House, and the House Judiciary Committee, and the Finance Committee, and Budget and Tax. I've obviously, the Vice Chair of Judiciary has been involved in some of these conversations, the Senator from the 41st. I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I would urge the body to resist that motion to re-refer. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right,
Mr.
on
President.
the motion to re-refer, Chair recognizes the Senator, or the Minority Whip.
Either one's fine. Mr. President, I support my colleague from District 6's motion, and I would like to ask for a roll call on it. Judicial proceedings, when we had the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee in our committee presenting this bill, most of the questions that we asked about were in subject matter that would have been Judicial Proceedings Committee. I had served on that committee before, so I had some understanding and ability to question some of the things and try to get down to the bottom of it. But as we were having the voting session, lots of questions that have been talked about on the floor here today, a lot of issues dealing with law and order, crime and punishment, amounts, expungements, major policy questions. And so I think it would be wise to have the Committee of Jurisdiction look at this. It's interesting that medical marijuana for many years was in judicial proceedings. So I'm not quite even sure, I'm not quite sure how marijuana got moved out of judicial proceedings. That happened a while ago. But I think it would be very smart to re-refer this and spend a little time making sure we have this right. I think there's some unanswered questions on that side of it. So I support the gentleman's motion.
All right, question before the body is the
Mr.
motion
President?
to re-refer. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th District.
Just a point of order. Can a motion be made to re-refer to a committee that never had possession?
The motion can be made, so it's not a recommit, it's a re-refer. All right, are there any further discussion on the motion? If not, Senator's requested a roll call vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 26 votes in the negative, the senator's motion fails. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a question for the floor leader, please.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Yes, sir.
This refers to the section of the bill with the fund.
Which fund? There's multiple funds.
This one's called the Health Fund, I believe it's called.
Health Advisory Fund.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And it provides that training for it says the money can be used, or some portion of the money can be used for training for law enforcement to recognize impairment due to cannabis.
Yeah, so, just to be candid, there's always been concern about public health effects, impacts on youth, and I think this is a good idea. We're creating I think, a pretty detailed health advisory council that will be supported by this health advisory fund that will look at a lot of the issues that I think you would be interested in having formal analysis and study on. I mean, it starts with this baseline study that we're going to have done starting this fall before we come back in January. Again, I should always say, Mr. President, that the bulk of this, we'll be back next session and there could be adjustments and tweaks. So we're going to have a baseline study just to see what kind of usage we have going on in our state right now, people under 21, et cetera. But yes, there's police enforcement, youth issues. So we've really bulked the bill up with a lot of studies, including the Health Advisory Council and a fund to back that health advisory public health set of issues up. So yes.
So is there a reason that this was restricted to training as opposed to equipping?
Training who?
It's for training for law enforcement to recognize impairment due to cannabis, which would basically we're providing funding to the DREs, the drug recognition experts.
I mean, I don't want to say it's a semantics issue, but I would say training, equipping are kind of in the same universe.
Well, that's my question. It doesn't say equipping, and that's what I'm very concerned about. I think your seatmate there has brought up for a number of years some bills that I've supported to enable us to. The challenge that we see over and over from the jurisdictions that have legalized marijuana is the impact, the obvious increase in intoxicated driving that this causes as people use marijuana instead of alcohol or in addition to, and that one thing that's lacking that becomes pretty impactful is that we've had alcohol out for a number of years, so we have the preliminary breath tests and formal lab analysis that can readily determine a level of intoxication, but we don't have that for marijuana, and that's impactful. So it appears to me that by limiting this to training, we would not be able to use some portion of that to support the development and acquisition of equipment akin to PBTs that could then be used to drive to meet the challenges that it's going to obviously result in of intoxicated driving. And I mean, you say equipment, but clearly the bill just says training, which is the DREs, which already exist, and we do train them. I have no problem with more training for DREs,
Sure.
but I'm specifically interested in that equipping.
No, yeah, I mean, just to be truthful, that language came from the House Judiciary. I would, you know, we didn't.
They're not as good as us.
Yeah, well, that may. I would say that this particular council that you're referring to, this will not kick in and it won't even start up until or unless the referendum passes. So I know you're maybe doing other things next January, but that would be post-November where this would kick in. I mean, any kind of modifications or adjustments or amendments that would change one word that you just mentioned, I mean, it would be appropriate. That particular council is not actually going to be able to even do anything until after the referendum passes. So maybe you would recruit somebody else here in the chamber to add that one word. I don't know what to tell you.
And then, okay, thank you. And then there's also, how many funds are there? I know first, all the funds are funded basically with money that's accrued on the sale of marijuana, correct?
Well, actually, no, because we don't have a sale of marijuana yet program. That is not part of this bill. There are 3 funds. If you want me to reel them off to you, we have basically we've got the Cannabis Business Assistance Fund, which is to assist small minority-owned and women-owned businesses ultimately entering the cannabis industry. We've got the there's 3 funds, and 2 of the 3 are actually, there's dollars in the FY23 budget for. The other fund is I think the fund that I mentioned earlier. Let me just, want to get my descriptions of all these, the 3 funds correct. We've got the Community Reinvestment, the Community Reinvestment Repair Fund, there's a fund for Cannabis Business Assistance Fund. What's the third one? Yeah. And the Health Equity Fund. There's 3 funds. The one you're referring to that will support the advisory committee, and then the other 2 funds, one is the Community Reinvestment Repair Fund and the Cannabis Business Assistance Fund.
And
the Health Equity Fund does have dollars in the budget. Okay, so
the Health Equity Fund has money in the budget. The Business Assistance Fund does have money in the budget.
Yes. I mean, I could defer to our chair of B&T. He might have some insight. I'm not up to speed or privy to the final budget negotiations here, so we haven't. I don't want to speak out of turn here on what's actually in, because I'm not sure we've finalized.
It just seems unfortunate that we don't have funding for the current provisions, so that we would be able to have something akin to a PBT available as soon as this becomes legalized, to try to defer this. I know we've had the bill, it hasn't been funded, and that's a challenge.
Okay, I'll yield to B&T since some of these are budget considerations.
To the chair of B&T.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the bulk of the money that's associated with this is all funded through fencing off some money in the rainy day fund, which of course requires the actions of the administration to release that money. But that's where it stands. There are a couple portions of funding that also are included that have to do with the expungement. We have the ability to add to the judiciary's budget without consultation with the administration, and in that regard, that is actually will be actually completely funded.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. President.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District on the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Request that the amendments of the bill lie over under the rules.
All right. The senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendments will lie over under the rule. We've got another Senate bill. This is calendar number 45. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 523, Senator Kagan, Occupations and Professions, Licenses, Certificates, and Registration, Immigrants, favorable with 2 amendments.
All right. 523. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I think colleagues are all quite aware of the shortages that we have in our healthcare professions, whether it's nurses, nurse practitioner, nurse anesthetists, doctors, or home health care workers. Over 130 Maryland occupations require licensure. And we have people who are ready for these jobs. And yet, after we give people who are here through DACA, here as dreamers, here studying in Maryland, living in Maryland, paying taxes in Maryland, we give them promised scholarships. We give them free community college. We give them in-state tuition for 4 years. We give them legislative scholarships. And when they're ready to start their careers, we slam the doors in their face. So this bill, as amended, will simply allow people who are not yet American citizens to apply for licensure in health occupations only to help address our crisis level shortage. So this bill has 2 amendments. The first, and I have the wrong folder up. The first is technical, and the second clarifies that this is for health occupations only and allows the Health Occupations Board to accept either a Social Security number or an ITIN. And with that, I move the favorable report, move for the adoption of the favorable report with 2 amendments. Thank you, Mr.
Moves for the
President.
adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from District 6 on the amendments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, it doesn't have the vote for committee on here. We couldn't see it, but I'd like to lay over the bill. Over the rule. Thank you.
Okay, floor leader senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will lay over under the rule. All right, let's do this. Let's take up, looking at timing here. Let's do some of these third readers in case there's some that need a little bit more love. Let's ring the bells if we could and do a quorum call before third reading calendar.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Let's start with the special order calendar number 73. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 2, Delegate Lukey, Income Tax Work Opportunity Tax Credit. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
House Bill 2 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote and wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 2, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 282, Delegate D. Jones, Sales and Use Tax, Diapers Exemption. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
House Bill 282 is on third reader. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. The pages will collect the senator's amendment. Clerk will collect the amendment, and the pages will distribute. Senator may explain the amendment.
So this is one of the the bills that we had before that goes into the whole package on tax reform. And this one dealt with diapers and other baby products. We're just adding in diaper cream and baby wipes.
All right.
Move adoption of the amendment.
The senator moves the amendment. On the amendment, chair recognizes the minority leader.
Yes, and I wanted to thank the chairman. I kind of think of myself as an expert on diapers, unfortunately, having 7 kids. And I tell you, the one way I would get in trouble with my wife is when I was in charge of packing the diaper bag and did not put wipes or diaper cream in there. You get to the park and something happens. You definitely need these. These go together like apple pie and baseball. So thank the chairman for putting this in.
Thank you. All right. On the amendment, any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments? If not, the bill is on third reading for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 282, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 288, Delegate Crosby, Sales and Use Tax, Baby Products Exemption. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
House Bill 288 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 288, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 364, Delegate Henson, Sales and Use Tax, Medical Devices Exemption. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
House Bill 364 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 364, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 492, Delegate Johnson, Sales and Use Tax, Oral Hygiene Products Exemption. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
House Bill 492 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 492, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1151, Delegate Washington, Sales and Use Tax, Diabetic Care Products Exemption. Bill is on third reading for final passage.
House Bill 1151 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1151, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right. We're going to skip the consents for now because they're quick. So let's go to calendar number 4, third reading calendar number 4. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 12, Worcester County Delegation, Worcester County Public Safety Buildings used for agritourism.
All right, let's make sure we get it up on the board. All right, House Bill 12 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 12, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 75, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Maryland Agriculture Commission, Hemp Industry Member.
House Bill 75 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 75, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 133, Delegate Stewart, Environment Sealing Products Prohibition Safer Sealing Act of 2022.
House Bill 133 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 133, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 163, Delegate Carr, Public Information Act, required denial of sociological information and distribution list. This is an emergency bill.
House Bill 163 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 163, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 279, Delegate Rogers, Veterans Affairs Communications Outreach and Advocacy Program, Veterans Advocacy and Education Act.
House Bill 279 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 279, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 286, Delegate Kaiser, Emergency Medical Services Paramedics, Immunization Administration, effective date.
House Bill 286 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 286, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 391, Delegate Bartlett, false claims, civil penalties or damages, authorization to recover, and exceptions to general fund deposit by comptroller.
House Bill 391 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 391, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 592, Delegate Jacobs, deer management permit, hunting on state land leased by permit holder, authorization.
Third reader, final passage. Chair recognizes the President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask, if it's possible, I'd like to special order this bill until the appropriate time next week?
Wednesday, let's
Wednesday?
say?
Sure.
All right, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, bill will be
President?
special ordered. Yes.
Special
Objection?
order till when?
Till Wednesday.
Today's Thursday?
Correct.
So we're going an entire,
To
almost a
Wednesday.
week in advance, week later. Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 734, Delegate Learman, higher education, student financial assistance, alterations and appropriation, Maryland Student Investment Act.
House Bill 734 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 734, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 882, Chair, Environment and Transportation Committee, Natural Resources, Pocomoke River, Wildland Alteration of Boundaries.
House Bill 882 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 882, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1110, Delegate Holmes, Environment, Lead Poisoning Prevention, Elevated Blood Lead Level.
House Bill 1110 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1110, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1255, Delegate Aerosol, Education, Physical Restraint and Seclusion, Limitations, Reporting, and Training.
House Bill 1255 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1255, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District.
Thank you very much. I want to go green to red on 778, Senate Bill 778.
Green to red. Are there any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from Frederick City.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I go from red to green on House Bill 364?
Red to green on 364. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to go green on HB 2.
HB 2 would like to be recorded in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, let's go to Senate third reading calendar number 7 of House Bills. 7. This is the next non-consent here. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 31, Delegate Charkoudian, Maryland Energy Administration Resiliency Hub Grant Program and Fund.
House Bill 31 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 31, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 49, Delegate Johnson, Public Health Emergency and Allergy Treatment Program, Nurse Practitioners.
House Bill 49 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 49, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 90, Delegate Henson, State Personnel Management System, Office of the Public Defender, Placement and Collective Bargaining.
House Bill 90 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 90, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 108, Delegate Tracutian, Public Utilities, Energy Efficiency and Conservation Programs, Energy Performance Targets, and Low-Income Housing.
House Bill 108 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 108, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 141, Delegate Ruth, Equity in Transportation Sector Guidelines and Analysis.
House Bill 141 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 141, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 166, Delegate Sample Hughes, Alzheimer's Disease and Dementia Council and Coordination of Services, Dementia Services Act of 2022.
House Bill 166 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 166, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 270, Delegate Ebersol, Business Regulation, Innkeepers, Maintenance of Guest Records, and Employee Human Trafficking Awareness, Training, and Policy.
House Bill 270 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 270, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 510, Delegate Pendergrass, Healthcare Facilities, Health Services Cost Review Commission User Fee Assessment.
House Bill 510 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 510, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 778, Delegate Solomon, Transportation Investment Program, MARC Rail Service, Maryland Regional Rail Transformation Act.
House Bill 778 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 778, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 893, Calvert County Delegation, Calvert County Bond Request.
House Bill 893 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 893, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1048, Delegate Henson, Commission on African American History and Culture, Alterations, Senator Verda, Welcome Act.
House Bill 1048 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1048, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1247, Howard County Delegation, Howard County Property Tax Credit for Seniors to Offset Property Tax Increase.
House Bill 1247 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1247, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got calendar 11 is the next non-consent
Mr. President?
here. Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you. I'd like to be, shown in the green on House Bill 1048.
1048 on the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded in the red on House Bill 510.
Red on 510. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Calendar 11. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 20, Delegate Chang, Maryland Stadium Authority membership.
House Bill 20 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With the 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 20 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 129, Delegate Charkoudian, Behavioral Health Crisis Response Services and Public Safety Answering Points Modifications.
House Bill 129 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 129 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 253, Delegate Polakovich Carr, Unemployment Insurance, Federal Extended Benefits for Long-Term Unemployment.
House Bill 253 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 253 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 287, Delegate Pina Melnick, Secretary of Health, Professional Qualification Requirement.
House Bill 287 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 287 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 534, Delegate Bondari, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Self-Measured Blood Pressure Monitoring.
House Bill 534 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 534 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 611, Delegate Valderrama, Procurement Prevailing Wage Applicability.
House Bill 611 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 611 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 622, Delegate Brooks, Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard and Renewable Energy Credits Offshore Wind.
House Bill 622 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th district.
Mr. President, have an amendment, please.
Senator has an amendment. Clerk will collect the amendment. Pages will distribute. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This came in as a very simple bill that just discussed who would be responsible for collecting the OREC payments and distributing that to the developers of offshore wind projects. Because ORECs are handled a little bit differently, those prices are set by the Public Service Commission. The thought from the electric suppliers was that the utilities handle that directly. And the committee all agreed that that was a better idea, rather than to be in the utility portion, or the supplier portion, as normal RECs are. So a number of changes were made when the utilities got involved on how this would actually be handled, and they talked about the mechanism that gave some confusion on it, but I think all of that's been addressed. This would just be one amendment that would allow what are now being called these non-bypassable surcharges to just appear on each utility customer's bill as a line item. And that's the amendment. I move the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee.
Yeah, that's a friendly amendment. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
All right, any objections to Senator's amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Any further amendments? Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 622, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 649, Delegate Love, Environment Discharge Permits, Inspection and Administrative Continuations.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Third reading, Senator has an amendment. Clerk will collect the amendment. Pages will distribute the amendment.
Mr. President, this is a technical amendment picked up by DLS. It adds 2 words to the purpose paragraph after department adds of the environment was
Technical amendment.
missed the first time around.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Any objections? Without objections, the amendment is adopted. Bill's now again on third reading for final passage. Any further discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 649, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 669, Delegate Wilkins, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Doula Services Coverage.
House Bill 669 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 669, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1080, Delegate Pena-Melnick, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Children and Pregnant Women, Healthy Babies Equity Act.
House Bill 1080 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1080, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1228, Delegate Crosby, Natural Resources, Oyster, Spat, Shells, and Substrate.
House Bill 1228 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1228, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar number 12.
Mr. President.
Yes, thought this might be coming.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
from Montgomery
President. I'd like to be recorded in the green on House Bill 611. Thank you.
611 in the green. Any objections? Without objections, so ordered. Calendar 12. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 438.
Actually, just one more. Senator from District 38.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 669 from yay to nay.
669, yay to nay. Any objections? Without objections, so ordered. Senator from Prince George's. 47? Oh, nope, all right. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 438, Delegate Corman, Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, Funding Formulas, Alteration, WMATA Dedicated Funding Amendment Act of 2022.
All right, House Bill 438 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the Senator from Prince George's.
Thank you. Can I special order this till the next?
Next session?
Yes, please.
Are there any objections?
That's fine.
All right, no objections. Without objections, so ordered. Bill special ordered to the next day. All right, legislative day, that is. All right, clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 740, Delegate Learman, State Retirement and Pension System, Investment Climate Risk, Fiduciary Duties.
House Bill 740 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 740, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 795, Delegate Lukey, Grocery Receipts Tax on Short-Term Lease or Rental of Heavy Equipment Alterations.
House Bill 795 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 795, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 891, Delegate McIntosh, Department of Transportation and Spending Affordability Committee reports.
House Bill 891 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 891, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1055, Delegate Smith, Baltimore City, Maryland Transit Administration, Transit Services for Public School Students and Youth Workers.
House Bill 1055 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1055, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1088, the Speaker, African American Heritage Preservation Program, Annual Appropriation and Alterations.
House Bill 1088 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1088, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1290, Delegate McIntosh, Education, Public School Construction, Funding and Administration.
House Bill 1290 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Everyone recorded their vote. Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1290, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1450, Delegate McIntosh, Blueprint for Maryland's Future Implementation Plans and Fund Alterations.
House Bill 1450 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I asked a couple of questions on this bill yesterday, and I think I'd like to speak why I have some concerns about it. Actually, maybe I could ask the floor leader a question. That might be a better use of my oxygen
All right,
and everybody's time.
Senator, may
What
proceed.
about mine?
Yeah, I know we asked. Well, yours is always valuable, Mr. Chairman. Yours is always valuable. You're very valuable. As the budget chair, especially, extremely valuable. My question, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. So this bill has the quote-unquote fix in it. That was a bill, there was a Senate bill on this issue trying to fix the problem of enrollments. Does that have this in here as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
So let me say, if I can pose what I understand about it and have you maybe tell me that I'm right or wrong. There's a enrollment problem because of COVID, largely, a lot of drops in enrollment. So school systems around the state, even though there are supposed to be protections in the Kerwin Commission for enrollment drops, schools around the state some school systems were going to take a big hit, correct?
Correct.
Does this bill have the fix in it where some county governments will be making those school systems whole, so that some county governments will have to spend more money next year than they might have otherwise had to under maintenance of effort?
Correct.
But what's the benefit for making them do that, putting aside the benefit to the school systems, the county governments?
To the whole system, right, to the children.
The children,
in the
correct.
school. I mean, look, here's the problem. Would you want to be in a situation where you drop some enrollments and then you adjust by cutting some teachers, and then having to bring them back up again when enrollment comes back in? I mean, it's disruptive, and we're trying to avoid any kind of disruptions in the system.
Correct, which my school system has been in a situation before we had to close schools, so I'm very sympathetic to that and agree we want to try to avoid that, but we're doing it maybe with the county government's money, correct? Not ours, not the state's.
It is correct that the county governments would be responsible for that. However, the provision is not permanent in terms of effect on MOE.
That was my next question, is you're doing this for a year.
Correct.
And then next year it resets, it sets back to, how does it reset? Because let's say enrollments have dropped 20% in a county, that may be a high number, but let's say a county had lost 20, and then 14% come back.
So
how does this?
Yeah, in some
what I mean?
ways, I think it's going to be moot. because most jurisdictions are probably going to be raising beyond the level that they needed to for this particular correction.
Okay, some will not, some will. I mean, I think my county
know.
may be in
We
that
don't know.
situation.
Yeah, we
They're
don't
pretty
know.
close to it. So then the last question is just as an overall thing about this bill. This is rejiggering the timelines to give a little more time. And it's infusing, is the money it's infusing money that was already a part of Kerwin, or?
Infusing?
I thought this was the bill that dealt with the $800 million in the budget.
Okay, oh, that money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that money, over the course of time, in order to make the blueprint function from the state's perspective, we have to have a certain amount of money committed to it. And that $800 million, as part of the overall budget agreement that I've described before, is in this bill because it's the mechanism by which money can be put into a fund requires a bill to do it.
Right, right. But this $800 million is not $800 brand new million that wasn't going to be part of Kerwin already, correct?
No, well, ultimately, if you think about what needs to be in the fund over the course of time, it would have eventually gotten in there. We just took this opportunity with the surpluses that we had to
forward fund.
Essentially.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to be sure I understood where all the parts were going. I do appreciate the answers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. President.
All right, on the bill,
Yeah.
Chair recognizes Minority Leader.
If I could talk to or speak with the floor
floor
leader,
to
I
yield.
apologize for missing the floor yesterday on this one.
Senator may proceed.
I'm looking in here, and it's as far as the local commitment, and I see Allegheny has 384,000, Anne Arundel 10 million, Baltimore County 41 million. Is that money coming from the states going to the county to help pay that, or who pays that?
That would be from local government.
And if you could just give me, I know you had some conversation, just a real high level, why they're paying that extra money this year?
Again, this is all to hold harmless our school system, our children, from the fluctuation of this enrollment problem. And the counties, which, as you weren't here the other day, but I mentioned that MACO has signed off on this mechanism, and they are supportive of it. So it is the mechanism by which we keep that avoiding the fluctuation problem. And yes, in fact, the local governments are covering that cost. However, which I also pointed out yesterday, there's a lot of money out on the table right now from the federal government. So there's a lot of money to cover. And when I said earlier in answer to the other question, I believe, and having had conversations with several local governments already, that the ability and the desire of local governments right now to use their funding, their federal funding, some of their surplus money, to ensure that their systems are performing well, their school systems are performing well, is going to go beyond what I believe is required by some of these numbers that you're looking at.
Okay, so it's holding the school systems harmless, and the county governments will be picking up that money to pay for that harm. Is that basically shifting it to the county?
On a one-year basis.
Okay.
That resets the MOE and does not require the MOE to take into consideration the actions, that specific action, to cover the cost this year. However, I believe those MOEs are going to get reset anyway because of the commitments that the governments are making across the board.
Okay, and last question, if we didn't do this, would it be worse? In other words, if we said the counties don't have to pay that, what would be the consequence? Would the state or the school, or who would?
I mean, this is a point of decision. This is the decision that we're offering up as a committee for the solution. Theoretically, you could do it other ways, but I believe that this is an appropriate way to move forward. I think we've got some good agreement across the board. So
I guess what I'm asking is, if we did not put that on the counties, would the school have to pick up that money? Is that what would be?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? If we're ready for the question. Third reader, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1450, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1469, Delegate B. Barnes, Maggie McIntosh School Arts Fund established.
House Bill 1469 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1469, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1482, Delegate Learman, State Retirement and Pension System, divestment from Russia. This is an emergency bill.
House Bill 1482 is on third reader for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1482, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's, all right, timing-wise, we're probably going to try and get, I don't know, at least a half hour more going, and then we'll have to come back at 3. I know there's conference, so it's going to be a quick, we have to be efficient. We're going to make it work. So let's do the consent calendar. So we'll go to consent number 2. Calendar number 5.
third reading calendar number 5, consent calendar number 2.
All right, Senators, this is consent number 2 out of finance. Please take a look at the bills. Are there any bills that Senators wish to separate out? If not, they're on third reading for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, bills on consent calendar number 2, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Let's go to third reading calendar 6, consent 3. Clerk, read the calendar.
third reading calendar number 6, consent calendar number 3.
All right, this is consent calendar number 3 out of budget and tax. Take a look at the bills. Chair recognizes the President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask to separate 2 bills off of this calendar, House Bill 730 and 773.
All right, House Bill 730 and 773 will be voted separately. Any other bills that senators wish to separate? If not, any discussion? Third reader, final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 3, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 730, Delegate Buckle, Economic Development, Maryland Innovation Initiative Program, qualifying donation.
House Bill 730 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 730, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 773, Delegate Mangione, Department of General Services, Broker Rebate Fee Fund established.
Chair recognizes the Chair of JPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to special order this bill to the appropriate time tomorrow.
All right, any objection?
Wait a minute, which bill?
Oh,
Which one? It's the wrong bill. But
sorry, 773, correct?
Wait a minute.
773.
773.
Actually, till Wednesday. It's the appropriate
Wednesday?
time on
Wednesday's
Wednesday.
a better time, I think.
Yeah, that's the best time.
Are there any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special, nope, House bill.
Just to be clear, it's House Bill 773 to the appropriate time on Wednesday.
All right.
Not the Senate bill.
All right, there we go. All right, any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time on Wednesday. All right, we've got another consent calendar. Number 4, clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 8, consent number 4.
All right, these are out of finance, senators. They're on third reading for final passage. Any bills senators wish to separate? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, bills on consent calendar number 4, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. On to consent calendar number 5. Clerk will read the calendar.
third reading calendar number 9, consent number 5.
All right, again, out of finance. We've got about 7 bills. Any requests to separate? If not, on third reader, final passage, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, bills on consent number 5 are declared passed. Consent number 6, again out of finance. Clerk will read the calendar.
third reading calendar number 10, consent number 6.
Calendar 10, consent 6. We've got 6 bills here. Any requests for separation? If not, third reader, final passage, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Pop.
I need to ask for House Bill 972 to come
I'm
out.
sorry, which one?
House Bill 972.
972, if we could separate that out. Any other requests for separation? If not, on the bills but for 972, third reader, final passage, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 6 having received a constitutional majority are declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 972, Delegate Kelly, continuing care at home certificate of need exemption.
Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel. Has an amendment?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an amendment.
All right, if we could collect the senator's amendment.
It's a very simple amendment. Can I explain it while they're collecting? Wait a minute.
Sure, let's save some time while
All right.
we're... Let's just at least get it up on the board first before it's distributed. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you. The amendment just changes the effective date from October to July, so it will be in the same form as the Senate bill that passed.
All right, Senator has moved the amendment. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Do we have any further amendments? If not, House Bill 972 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 972, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we're getting there. Let's go to judicial proceedings, report number 29. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 425, the Speaker, Public Safety, Untraceable Firearms, favorable with 9 amendments.
All right, let's see, floor leader. Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. This is HB 425. As amended, the bill is identical to SB 387 that passed the Senate 35-11. The amended bill with specified exceptions. 1, requires the Secretary of State Police to maintain a system to register firearms imprinted with serial numbers as specified, and 2, prohibits a person from purchasing, receiving, selling, offering to sell, or transferring an unfinished frame or receiver or a firearm unless imprinted with the specified information. The governor must include at least $150,000 in the annual state budget to fund the registration activities conducted by the secretary under the bill. The bill also requires that the Secretary to suspend or revoke a dealer's license under specified conditions relating to untraceable firearms, and 2, establishes penalties for violations of specified provisions of the bill and expands the definition of firearms to include an unfinished frame or receiver. The bill must be construed in a manner that is consistent with specified proposed federal rules regarding privately made firearms. If the proposed federal rule is modified at the time of adoption, the bill must be construed in a manner that is consistent with those modifications. Provisions of the bill are severable. The bill takes effect on June 1st, 2022. There are 9 amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters a date. Amendment number 3 strikes a provision of the bill as originally drafted and amended by the House. Amendment number 4 adds exceptions and a mens rea requirement. And Amendment number 5 specifies marking and serialization requirements. Amendment number 6 alters the date and marking and serialization requirements. Amendment number 7 alters penalties and establishes a prohibition on specified sales, offers to sell, and transfers. And Amendment number 8 provides for a registration system maintained by the Secretary of the State Police. Amendment number 9 provides for the construction of the bill. Move favorable the bill as amended.
All right, the floor leader has moved for the adoption of the 9 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 9 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 425 is hereby ordered passed to 3rd reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 459, Delegate Clippinger, Juvenile Justice Reform. Favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is in the same posture as Senate Bill 691 that passed the House. So I would move the amendments in favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
Just ask the bill amendments lie over, please.
Senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendments will lie over under the rule. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 571, Delegate Rosenberg, Access to Counsel and Eviction Special Fund Alterations. Favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is a bill that the Senate voted on unanimously on the cross file, but the bills aren't identical. The House bill excludes the word restitution from the fund, whereas the Senate version excluded money received by the aggrieved party. So this change was just made for clarity purposes. There are no committee amendments. I move for the favorable adoption of the report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Question now. Is there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 571 is hereby ordered passed to 3rd reading. Let's go to JPR calendar number 30. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1021, the Speaker, Public Safety, Licensed Firearm Dealers, Security Requirements. Favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill prohibits a licensed firearm dealer from conducting business and storing firearms at a location, one, on the premises in which the licensed dealer operates, unless it's equipped with the specified security features which are outlined in the bill. Outside business hours, licensed dealer has to lock all of the firearms on the stored premises in a vault, safe, or room or building that meets the specified requirements. A violator of this is subject to a maximum civil penalty of $1,000 imposed by the Secretary. In addition, the civil penalty, if a person knowingly or willfully violates this bill, they are subject for second and subsequent offense, the person's revocation or suspension of the person's dealer license, and then for a third or subsequent offense, revocation of the person's dealer license. The penalties do not apply if the equipment or the alarm system became temporarily inoperable at no fault of the dealer. The Secretary must suspend the dealer's license if the licensee found in violation of the second offense of the bill's provisions, and revoke the dealer's license if the licensee is found in violation of the third and subsequent offense of the bill's provisions. There are no committee amendments, and move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Mr. President.
All right. Floor leaders move for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if the chair would yield for a question.
It appears so. Senator may proceed.
Mr. Chairman, so there are no amendments on this bill? I'm seeing a lot of amendment language. I guess it's from the House.
That's from the House.
The House
That's right,
reprint.
that's right.
I'm looking at it. I would normally lay it over if there were amendments on it, just because I'd like to look at it more closely. I guess I'm trying to understand. I'd like to understand what we're trying to do here. Like, I would think that most businesses have a security system of some kind. I'm assuming you're going to tell me that there are some that maybe did not. But this seems like we're maybe taking a sledgehammer to a housefly issue. But can you explain what we're doing here?
No, I think your initial instincts are actually correct. Most of the folks that are in this business actually have a lot of the security precautions or measures that are already outlined in the bill. So I'd say it's a much more nimble tool than that, because I think your first instincts are correct.
Well, but we're putting in some pretty significant penalties here, and we're also, the bill here is, I say we, I mean, the bill as it came over, it's mandating, looks like one of several different things here. It's being very, very specific about security in the bill. Can you talk about that and what that all is?
Sure. So I think you're reading on page 3. So you got to have, you cannot conduct business unless you have one of these. You've got to have equipment capable of filming, recording the video footage inside or outside the buildings where you're conducting the business or where the firearms are stored. And then at least one of these items. So at least one of the bars, security screens, commercial grade metal doors, gates, or other physical barriers approved by the secretary. And then if you have the burglary alarm system that is constantly monitored, which is, as we discussed in our committee, something that's very easy, most of us have on our homes. And if practicable, physical barriers. So it's basically you have to have an alarm system and one of the 5, just one of the 5 that are listed here.
Okay, Mr. President, I think I'd like to have some time to look at this bill. I'd like to ask that we special the order of this bill till next Wednesday.
Oh, that hurts. That
Senator
hurts.
has moved to special order the bill till next Wednesday. On the special order?
I'd ask for the body to resist the motion. I think we can resolve your questions either through dialogue here or a shorter
Okay,
period of time.
let me withdraw my motion and suggest, could we have a special order for a day?
Let's hear from the
I'd resist the special order. We could, let's have the dialogue here. I can answer your questions here right now.
Okay, all right. Well, I'd like to have the special order at least till the afternoon session. How about we do that?
So you hear from the floor leader?
I'd resist the special order. We can have the dialogue right here. I'd ask the body to resist the special order.
Okay, so, let me have a roll call on that, Mr. President. We're asking for courtesy for a few hours to look at something. I've got several of these businesses in my district, and I think it's just trying to make sure we're not going too far on something that is already being done. So I'd like to ask for a roll call on the special order.
All right, Senators requested a roll call on the motion to special order. Any further discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator.
Could you just ring the bells for me, please?
Sure, could we please ring the bells, Madam Secretary? On the motion to special order, if we're ready for the question, the clerk will call the roll. Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 29 votes in the negative, the motion fails. Chair recognizes the senator or the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're putting in different offenses here. What was the current, if I could ask the floor leader to yield for a question?
Senator may proceed.
And let me just make it clear, I'm not against making sure we have security at our firearm dealers. Obviously, I think, as I said, generally, most of them will and do. I can't imagine someone has a supply of valuable firearms and does not have a security system already. So I tend to be resistant to the idea of putting things in law that are more common sense or that are super specific. So I guess one question I would have in here is we're adding in penalties for first, second, third offense. What was the penalty before this? Was there no penalty at all?
So essentially, it's been done on a county-by-county basis. The language here mimics what's currently in law in Baltimore County.
Okay. Were there reports? I know in Baltimore County, they put this in place several years ago because they actually did have a situation where there was a very bad break-in. I remember anecdotally one case. But have there been reports of cases of break-ins in other jurisdictions, significant break-ins in other jurisdictions besides Baltimore County? And I know Baltimore City's had an issue as well.
So I've had some in my district, but also the most high-profile incident I think of was in the vice chair's district just last year.
Okay, I think involved okay. Because the reason I ask this is, generally speaking, when we regulate what businesses are going to put in as far as their security systems and their compliance with fencing and all kinds of things like that, that is generally more of a local zoning or local decision permitting process. And this bill's basically saying we're just going to require from a statewide level it be exactly the same everywhere. So if I have let me say it this way. So if I own a firearm dealership and I'm out in rural Carroll County, and I've got a little parking lot and I'm in a rural area, I've got to have not just a system that locks and secures the doors, but I also have to have an alarm system that goes off. Or if I have an alarm system, I also have to have gates.
No. So you've got to have that alarm system and then one of the 5 things here. So bars, security screens, commercial grade metal doors. The list that's enumerated here on page 3. So you've got to have an alarm system essentially. So you've got to have your alarm system. Yeah. Sit tight.
What is a security screen?
So I actually had to look that up. It's a security screen. It's like a metal grate that kind of coils up into the top, and you see them in malls, strip malls a lot of the time.
Like bodega type stuff where
Exactly
they roll
right.
it down.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, Mr. President, I think that's all the questions that I have right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the answers.
Thank you.
All right. On the adoption of the favorable committee report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the senator from District 4 has an amendment.
I have an amendment.
All right. We will collect the amendment. Senator May explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just ask that the bill and amendment lie over under the rule.
All right. The senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will lie over under the rule. Do we have any more on that calendar? No. Let's do calendar 31. Clerk, read the first bill. Oh, sorry, this is out of finance. Finance 31.
580.
Sorry about that.
House Bill 580, Delegate P. Young, Maryland Transit Administration, Police Collective Bargaining, Supervisors and Sergeants, favorable with 2 amendments.
Do we have a floor leader here for House Bill 580 out of finance? Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 580 is amended to be the same as Senate Bill 475, which passed the Senate. The bill adds sergeants who are supervisors in the Maryland Transit Administration Police to the list of administration employees authorized to participate in collective bargaining with the administration. The amendments conform House Bill 580 to the Senate Bill 475. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 580 is hereby ordered passed to 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 837, Delegate Clippinger, Cannabis reform, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the
Yeah,
floor
Mr.
leader.
President, this is an exact same posture as Senate Bill 833, which we talked about just a little earlier. Again, the bill renames marijuana as cannabis, makes corresponding statutory changes, requires various state entities to complete studies, collect and report data, and develop specified standards regarding the use of cannabis, alters civil and criminal penalties related to cannabis, authorizes specified resentencing and release of individuals convicted of use or possession of cannabis, alters expungement provisions, establishes the Cannabis Business Assistance Fund, the Cannabis Public Health Advisory Council, and the Cannabis Public Health Fund, and the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund, and establishes a subtraction modification for cannabis establishments. The 3 amendments conform the bill, House Bill 837 to Senate Bill 833. I move the amendments in adoption. The favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 3 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District.
Request that the bill and the amendments lay over under the rules.
Senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendments will lay over under the rule. All right, we've got a concurrence. This is concurrence calendar number 5. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 541, Senator Elfreth, Natural Resources, Maryland Park Service and State Parks, alterations, Great Maryland Outdoors Act, Budget and Tax, and EHE.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee to explain the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. As passed by the Senate, the bill makes various changes to state law affecting Maryland's Park Service relating to 1, funding for the parks, 2, park staff and volunteers, 3, management of parks and park infrastructure, and 4, parks amenities and other considerations. There were 3 House amendments. First allows certain funding to be used to make parks accessible to people with disabilities. Second, increases annual funding for the Mel Nolan program. And 4, establishes the Port O Deposit State Historical Park. The Budget and Taxation Committee concurs with the amendments.
All right, the motion is to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Are there any objections to the House amendments? All in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 541 is now again before the Senate in 3rd reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 541, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we can do it. Let's go to report number 43, out of Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 28, Delegate Bondari, pharmacist, nicotine replacement therapy medication, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 28 is in the exact posture as Senate Bill 62 that passed 45 to 0 2 days ago. It's pharmacist nicotine replacement therapy. There is 1 committee amendment. The amendment modifies the definition of nicotine replacement therapy by removing the requirement that the medicine be in small doses before prescribing and dispensing. I ask for the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 1 committee amendment is adopted. On the amended report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 28 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 136, Delegate Kerr, Education, Public and Non-Public Schools, Seizure Action Plans, Braley's Act. Favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, House Bill 136 conforms to the Senate Bill 299, which as amended passed unanimously in the Senate a couple of weeks ago. It deals with seizure preparation in our schools. There are 2 amendments. The first one revises the training requirements. There are 2 primary people for the in-depth training who will then provide it in an abbreviated form to the school personnel. It also revises the enabling authority for non-public schools to make it consistent with changes to public school requirements. Move adoption of 2 committee amendments. Favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, chair recognizes the minority leader.
Yes, if the floor leader would yield. I was not here yesterday, unfortunately, with the protocols. I was just briefly looking at the fiscal note and see if this had been revised. It says this poses a mandate on local government. Is that still the case?
If it does, it's only for the two primary people in each school who have to be trained. And if it's done on school time, it's not an extra cost. If it's on a weekend, it may be. After that, the training is actually integrated with normal pre-service staff training or professional development. So we tailored it down. It's exactly like the bill that passed unanimously here 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay, and I know there's another bill coming from the House, I don't know if it's going to come out here, that deals with mandates to education. And I know that's a policy decision we have to make in education, health, and environmental affairs. Thank you. I just wanted to note to the body that we are selective when we want to put a mandate on local schools, and we pick and choose. The locals don't like mandates, and I understand that, but we have serious issues that we're dealing with in the state. And sometimes we use the reason that we don't want local mandates to hold legislation back. And I think when we're dealing with very serious issues such as this one, it's very important. And when there's other issues, we should also take that same consideration. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 136 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 396, Prince George's County and Montgomery County delegations. Montgomery County Planning Board, open meetings, video and audio streaming, and minutes. Favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 396 requires the Montgomery County Planning Board to prepare minutes in accordance with the Open Meeting Act, and one, stream the video or the audio of all open meetings of the board, and to maintain on its website complete and unedited recording of each live stream meeting. With no amendments, no financial impact, I move the adoption of the committee's favorable report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 396 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 396, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Montgomery County Council and District Council voting thresholds. Favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill established new voting thresholds for Montgomery County Council of Montgomery County or Montgomery County District Council in matters concerning the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission as specified. The bill applies prospectively and may not be applied or interpreted to have any effect on application to the voting threshold process. There were no amendments, no financial impact. I move the adoption of a favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments? Chair recognizes. Any amendments? If there are no amendments, House Bill 397 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 448, Delegate Smith, State Board of Cosmetologists, Licensees, Supervision of Apprentices, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Lower Shore as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This beautiful bill increases from 1 to 2 the number of apprentice cosmetologists that a licensed senior cosmetologist or an individual with a limited license may supervise at the same time. Specifically, the bill authorized a licensed senior cosmetologist to directly train and supervise up to 2 apprentices learning to practice cosmetology. In addition, the bill authorizes an individual with specified limited licenses who have 2 or more years of experience in the relevant field to directly train and supervise up to 2 apprentices, learning the same limited practice. There are no committee amendments. The bill passed unanimously, and I move for a favorable report on HB 448.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 448 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 716, Delegate Lehman, Patuxent River Commission membership favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, House Bill 716 is identical to Senate Bill 367 that passed unanimously a few weeks ago. It alters the membership of the Patuxent River Commission. There are 2 amendments. The first one is technical. The second one adds someone engaged from a local government in watershed management. Move adoption of 2 committee amendments. Favorable committee report.
All right. Floor leader moves to the adoption of 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Any discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Any amendments to the bill or title? Seeing none, House Bill 716 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 807, Delegate Queen, real estate brokers, salespersons, and associate brokers, continuing education courses, verification of identity, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District as the floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Senators, House Bill 807 is a straightforward bill. It requires an instructor of a continuing education course for real estate brokers, associate brokers, and salespersons to require an individual enrolled in the course to provide documentation to verify the individual's identity. For an in-person course, the individual must provide a photo identification. For a virtual or other remote course, the individual must provide a signed affidavit attesting to the identity of the individuals. There are no committee amendments, no fiscal impact. Therefore, I move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Yes, if we could collect the senator's amendments. Senator may explain the amendments.
Mr. President, this is a small amendment. The original bill talks about proving the veracity of the person participating so they know who is getting the continuing education credit. Rather than having the instructor confirm it, it would be the entity that conducts a continuing education course. So minor amendment, move adoption of the amendment.
All right, Senator moves for the adoption of the amendment. Any objections to the amendment?
This is a friendly amendment, Mr. President, so I recommend adoption.
No objections. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 807 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. We're going to do one last calendar. 39. Last one. This is out of Budget and Tax. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 335, Delegate Foley, Maryland Transportation Authority, easy pass, disputes of charges and fees, favorable.
All right, Chair recognizes the senator from District 1 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate House Bill 335 requires the Maryland Transportation Authority to allow a person to dispute any charge or fee for the use of a Maryland toll facility within at least 1 year after the charge or fee is posted to the person's Easy Pass account. No amendments. I move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 335 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 641, Delegate Atterbury, income tax, theatrical production tax credit, favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill creates the credit against state income tax for 25% of qualified theatrical production costs incurred in the states, the exact same posture as the bill we discussed earlier today. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 641 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1362, Delegate Prettyman, Baltimore City, use of highway user revenues for traffic functions and enforcement modification, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1362 is in the same posture of a bill that just came through second reader, Senate Bill 729. This bill expands the authorized use of highway user revenues for Baltimore City. The bill authorizes Baltimore City to use HUR to pay any cost incurred for carrying out traffic functions and enforcing the traffic. The House bill is identical, once again, to Senate Bill 729. Mr. President, please move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1362 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, senators, we've got almost there, but we're going to break. We're going to break here. Let's do committee announcements. Unless protocol or vote? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded in the green on HB 891.
891 in the green. Any objections? Without objections, so
And then
ordered.
one more in the red on HB 510.
510 from green to red. Any objections? Without objections, so ordered. All right. 3:30, I think, is the 3:30. So chair recognizes the chair of finance.
Finance will meet at 2:20. I mean at 1:20. No,
Ooh,
2:20.
2:20. Yeah.
2:20. Okay. At 2:20 for bill hearings and voting.
2:20. All right. Chair recognizes the chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs.
Mr. President, EHE will meet at 2:10 for bill hearings, followed by one quick voting session.
2:10. All right. Budget and tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the conferees for the budget for the operating budget and the conferees and the advisors could move to the committee room as quickly as possible following session, that would be terrific. Everyone else also just stay tuned in case we need to pull you in for voting on something.
All right. Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll meet today at 2:15 for bill hearings.
2:15. All right. Any other standing committees or select committees, delegations, joint committees? Any other orders of business before we do a quorum call? If not, Chair of the Prince George's County delegation? Nope. All right, let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 44 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just confirming that the chambers will be locked so people can leave their computers if they'd like.
That is, we will secure the chambers.
Okay, thank you. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until a new legislative day at 3:30 this afternoon.
Without objection, so ordered. 3:30. Good luck. Have a great lunch. See you this afternoon.